Everyone is familiar with weeds in the garden. By definition, a weed is a plant that grows where it is not wanted. Weeds have some common characteristics. Some are annuals that reseed each growing season, and some are perennials, which can live from year to year. They are resilient and tenacious. They resist eradication either by reseeding or by regenerating from pieces of root left in the soil that sprout and grow. Most soils contain thousands of weed seeds per square yard in the top 3 to 4 inches. More can blow in with the wind, and some may even come with the plants you buy from the nursery or from the mulch that you spread. They adapt to many garden environments. They are highly competitive. They compete with your garden plants for space, nutrients, and water. It's worth keeping these characteristics in mind as you deal with weeds in your garden. Here we can see how the weed spreading spurge has quickly taken over this newly planted area. This is a typical scenario gardeners are familiar with. You have just replanted your garden. In your careful preparation, you have also created the perfect environment for your weeds to grow. As you cultivated, it's likely that you churned up a whole bank of weed seeds, and you chopped up some perennial weed roots into many tiny pieces. The seeds will sprout, and the leftover pieces of the roots are just like the weed seeds waiting to sprout. As you water your landscape, they grow into menacing weeds and compete with your new plants for water and nutrients. You may ask, are there any ways to avoid this? Let's say that you're changing out your lawn, and you want to plant something else like a ground cover to save water. The first thing to understand is that any lawns contain weeds that will come back to haunt you if you do not eliminate them before you plant. Weeds such as crabgrass, Bermuda grass, and kikuyu grass, common in so many lawns, will keep coming back if you do not eradicate them. To get rid of these, there are a couple of good options. Use what's called a grow-kill cycle, or use solarization. This technique is very simple. Irrigate and allow the weeds to grow. In the case of a lawn, let it grow without mowing it for a week or so. Once it has achieved a good stage of growth, spray with a systemic herbicide. Herbicides containing glyphosate are the most effective for this, particularly when there are perennial weeds present. Glyphosate is sprayed on green leaves and is taken into the plant through the green tissue and is carried down to the roots. Protect your plants from overspray and be sure to follow manufacturer's directions. For non-lawn areas, wait until you have a good covering of weeds before you spray. When using herbicides, you can increase the effect by applying a light application of a nitrate fertilizer and watering the area a couple of weeks beforehand to bring on as much growth as possible before spraying. It's a good idea to repeat this technique before planting to exhaust as many of the weeds as possible. The more weeds you kill now, the less you will have after planting. You may also use a contact herbicide, but this will not be as effective on perennial weeds. It's important that you do not cultivate the soil until you have completed the grow-kill cycle. The upside of the grow-kill method is that it will significantly reduce the problem of weeds after you plant. This is a particular advantage when you're planting a ground cover. The downside is that it will take longer to prepare your landscape, but the delay is well worthwhile as it greatly reduces the maintenance. We suggest that you calculate backwards from the time you want to plant to allow enough time to eradicate the weeds. For those who don't want to use chemical herbicides, you can use a technique known as solarization. We'll discuss solarization later in the series.